Hi, I'm Chris, and this is not another gratitude podcast where we bring guests on the show while we also make them suffer by beating our intention raps. And today we are joined by Ben Goldman. He is a therapist in private practice specializing in working with men and men's issues with a focus on sex, intimacy, relationship conflict, and breakups. I'm very good at those. His work centers on helping people navigate the emotional and physiological complexities of relationships with greater clarity and intention. He is currently researching and writing a book that reframes breakups through the lens of the attachment, grief, and explores the role of ritual in healing. Whew. That sounds. Yeah, that was a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I don't even know where to begin.
Imagine actually like writing it. You know what I mean?
I think that book would probably take me like 10 years to finish.
Well, I'm hoping it's not gonna take me 10 years, but
to read it. I mean,
I'd
probably get triggered every 5 seconds.
I know.
I'd be like, uh-oh, me.
Okay, good.
Uh-oh, me.
Good. Well,
There
that's
I am again.
the goal.
That's the goal.
No, it's not the goal.
I'm just kidding. I think that like we could all use a little bit of help in the relationship sphere.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do.
Some more than others, but yeah, that's the vibe. Thank you guys for having me.
No, thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
thank you.
I'm so happy to be making the beaded bracelet too.
Yeah, so I mean,
I love an activity. Like I love an activity.
The intention wrap was something that like I came up with out of a desire to not be making just like t-shirts all the time. People started being like, ooh, you should put this phrase on a t-shirt, you should put that phrase on a t-shirt. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. I do not want to do that. I'm not going to turn into this like inspirational t-shirt company with like millions of SKUs that say like, you know, it gets better. Like, no,
Right.
That's not going to be us. State of gratitude, that's it. I'm a one and done kind of princess. And so the next logical step was like to come up with something that people could also wear.
Right.
You know, and I liked bracelets. Figured let's make a bracelet.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you know, in the past, year, I think, they've really taken off in a really cool way.
It's great.
And what a better way to break the ice with somebody new than to make them beat their own intention rap.
I love it. I think it's great. Are we saying our intentions out loud as we do as we do these raps?
Yeah, because it's 1,000 beats, so you need 1,000 intentions.
Oh, I don't have that many.
Every time a bead hits the thread, you have to say an intention.
Oh well,
I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that.
Because I don't know. I don't even know if I live my life that intentionally. To be honest.
Really, you don't like take a step and think to yourself like, I'm glad I did that with so much intention.
No, I do, but not 1,000 times.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah.
So you just make sure that you go places that have less than 1,000 steps away.
Maybe.
I'm just kidding.
So
So how long have you lived in New York for?
I've been in New York for 9 years.
Amazing.
I moved here in 2017 after
Okay.
undergrad, and
Did you go straight into private practice at that point? Or
well, honestly, I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, how do I even like tell the story? Basically, I moved to New York. I didn't really have a plan, or like a sense of like what I was gonna do professionally.
Uh-huh.
And then I went through, one of these kind of like
Breakups?
spiritual journeys. Well, that probably too.
I'm like,
One of these spiritual journeys that got me sober,
okay.
and that brought me to applying to grad school, and which happened all pretty quickly. Like I moved to New York in 2017. I started grad school at beginning of 2019. So all was like pretty like boom, boom, boom. But the cool thing was that while I didn't move to New York being like, oh, I want to be a therapist, like I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But once I got here and that path kind of like opened up in front of me, I was like, oh, like this is actually like very consistent with like everything that I care about, and like all the skills that I think that I have, and all of the types of relationships that I like to build. And so the last 7 years in this field has just been like this really cool journey of taking that and harnessing it into something
Positive.
something meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Now I see you have a ring on your finger.
Yes,
That must mean that you are.
I am married. Yes.
Yeah, so I
got married last year.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I guess then that means that like what you've learned, you've also probably been able to apply in your own life in some way, shape, or form, considering that you went from like an emotional state, you know, break of emotional states to now where you are today.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think, well, first of all, I can assure you that just because someone's married, it doesn't have anything, it doesn't reflect in any way on their emotional well-being.
Well, I mean, at the same time, though, if I was,
But
thinking,
it does happen to reflect for me.
Yeah.
So
I just think
yes.
that like maybe if I was gonna go and see a therapist for relationships or a relationship expert,
Oh,
and they weren't
interesting.
married, then I might be like, huh,
Yeah.
like
That's a good point. That's a good point. I do think that, well, it's interesting because, so I'm writing this book about breakups, and actually there were 2 inspiring events for this, and one of them was getting married.
right,
Because the book is about breakups and attachment grief and ritual. And ritual is something we often associate with things like religion or spiritual practices, but also ritual is, a wedding is very ritual,
of
right?
course, yeah.
And I just had this very intense emotional experience where I think as gay people, you don't really want to kind of engage in the ritual that's prescribed for you. You kind of want to create your own. But then also when you're in the process of creating your own ritual, you're also kind of like, is this legitimate? Like, is this like what am I doing? Like,
Right.
Is this
Yeah.
matter? So anyway, all that's
It's
happening.
like imposter syndrome almost.
Yeah, yes, I actually would say there's a fair amount of imposter syndrome. But also, what was interesting is in the meanwhile, I'm always thinking about topics of like relationship and conflict and grief and attachment, and so there was something kind of internally conflicting for me around like, oh, like here I am kind of creating my own ritual to enter marriage, whatever the fuck
Right.
that means, but then at the same time kind of thinking about how like there really isn't ritual for attachment grief. And it all kind of came to a head because about a month after my wedding, my father called me, and my father is notoriously, famously very bad at breakups. And he calls me and he's like, oh, I just got out of my long-term relationship with my girlfriend, and I kind of like brace myself for him to regale me with like all of the drama of his breakup. And I'm like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? He's like, honestly, I'm feeling really good. And I was like, you're feeling good? I was like, how are you feeling good? Like, how is this possible? And he's like, well, I had my shaman come to my now ex-girlfriend's house, and she led us in a decoupling ritual to end the relationship.
Huh.
And I was totally flabbergasted. I was completely caught off guard because
Is he a spiritual person in general?
he is pretty spiritual. That part wasn't surprising. I think the surprising part was that he had the insight and wherewithal to be like, I'm going to do this with intention in this moment where I know I need it.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people,
Hang on to things for way too long.
yeah, and don't like, people like to talk about the idea of moving on or getting over something, which is fine. But I actually think what the problem is, in order to, well, especially as I've been doing research for this book, like in order to actually like move on and make progress, you have to have a container to step into, you know? And I think that he did that successfully. He created this container where the shaman came, they lit a fire. I think they did something like write out resentments and burn them in the fire. They wrote like goodbye letters to each other and read them to each other. And within like 3 or 4 hours after the shaman left, he had like, his car had been packed and he like left her house forever.
Wow.
And
They
you
live
know,
together.
Yeah, they lived together, exactly.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so I was just really inspired by this because I think in my work, and especially like I said, like from like my personal experience of like going through like the wedding process, I all of a sudden was kind of like struck with this, like, okay, there's like socially constructed rituals and routines that we have, right? It's kind of like, oh, like you get married in this way, or oh, you propose in this way, or oh, like if someone dies, you grieve in this way, right? But then there's kind of like this other piece of it, which is like, well, those socially constructed rituals are important, but so are the ways in which we personalize them and make something more meaningful of it. So yeah, that's kind of like what inspired the whole thing.
Especially considering the fact that like you are somebody who leads a life with intention, even though it's not maybe every single step.
I do have I all jokes aside, I do like to think that I live a pretty intentional life.
I
overall.
love that. I mean,
Yeah.
I love to think that I do as well.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that like I constantly talking about all the time. It's just like like, why are you doing this? Like,
Right.
make sure that you're doing things intentionally. What is the why? What is the why? What is the why?
Right.
And to hear that, you do the same thing is nice. It makes me feel like I'm not as crazy as I think I am sometimes.
It's one of the reasons why like this, the way that this research has been evolving has been so interesting to me, because intention is actually kind of the glue here. So I kind of have developed this definition of ritual, not just for breakups, but in the context of my book, like all around breakups. And a ritual is an intentional, repeated act that has a beginning, middle, and end that you step into as a container in order to process something, make sense of it, or to access like a higher power or higher self, And so like, I think that kind of reflections on like gratitude and intention, like all fit very well
nicely together.
into this. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's so many things that like we do on a day-to-day basis just because I guess we're just supposed to do them, that if we actually stop to think about like, hey, why am I doing X, Y, or Z, you might actually like come to find that like you actually have zero interest or desire in doing X, Y, and Z, and you're like, why have I been doing this whole time? I don't even like doing this.
Right.
As we're talking about intention and rituals, I just keep thinking about the fact. So I have someone's name tattooed on my chest that had
This is an X.
a situationship.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. This is juicy.
And so he's tattooed on my body.
Are you in
Yeah,
touch
he
with
is.
him?
Wasn't,
don't
and now
talk.
we're back
Oh.
in touch
Wait,
again.
what? Yeah, no?
Yeah. So I'm starting to think of what's the intention there. Why do I have it on my? Why do I still have this tattoo?
But why? What is the intention behind you wanting to like reconnect with this person?
I know that's.
Where's this going? Is this going someplace positive?
Oh, it's not going anywhere positive.
Okay, then why are we doing this?
Well, let's start with the original like intention or maybe lack thereof. Why did you get his name tattooed on your body? What were you trying to demonstrate? What were you trying to communicate? What were you trying to solve for?
There was a deeper backstory. I was in a moment where I was going to commit suicide. I had the gun in my hand, suicide letters. He happened to call me in that moment. So it was a mixture of that, or at least I tell myself that's the reason.
Sure.
Or was it me trying to be like, oh, I'm in love with you. This is attention seeking, because we would go back and forth for a couple years.
Right. Well, I
And-
mean, listen, you're talking about like a very intense emotional experience that, this person like helped pull you out of, and, maybe that was something you kind of view in a spiritual lens, like this person was like the way that God was protecting you, or maybe you view it more from the lens of like this person happened to be there, or like you said, maybe it's like you're infusing meaning onto it. Regardless though, right, you went through, I think it's not always a ritual experience to get a tattoo, but what you're describing sounds like a very ritual experience in terms of you stepped into something very intentional, very spiritual to access something bigger than yourself, and now you're questioning, and this is why intention matters, right? Like you're asking yourself like, how intentional was it? Because if we were to ask Richard on that day, like how what's the purpose of this? There's a big difference between Richard saying, I'm trying to memorialize this moment because like God protected me through this person, and that's why I'm putting this on my body, and like that's like the ritual intention, versus maybe a more honest reflection on I really don't want to ever lose this person, and so I'm putting this on my body so I never lose
think
him.
that's probably
Okay.
what it is.
I mean, I think that, and at the same time though, like in the same way that we can shift or reframe an idea or notion about something, the same way you can a tattoo. Like you could easily shift your frame.
That's a really good point.
You could shift your
That's a really good
mindset or your
point.
framework into thinking that this is more about whatever.
Memorializing.
My English is not very good looking. The moment, and just realizing that like this doesn't mean that anymore.
Yeah.
This means this. And then when he does reach out to you, you're not like, oh my God, this is the person who I have tattooed on myself. This is like, this is the person who helped got me out of a hard helped me
But
get-
what's
helped get
what's
me out of a
interesting,
hard time.
actually, I really love what you just said, because this is all very consistent with like the research that I'm doing and the writing that I'm doing, which is that you can take an act that or a choice or a decision that had a meaning in a certain moment, and you get to reconceptualize meaning around it, right?
Yeah.
And that's a very good example of it. But I do think that the premise of my book isn't that ritual is the answer to everything. The premise is more along the lines of ritual might be the missing piece that we need to reconceptualize a helpful version of meaning. Mm-hmm. And if you were to take this idea of like, let's take this tattoo and reframe the meaning around it, of course you could wake up every morning and say to yourself, this isn't about him. It's like that, and that's what I think a cognitive behavior therapy model would recommend. Like just every morning say to yourself, this is what this represents. From a perspective of ritual, all of a sudden there's a new open playing field, which is like, what is it that Richard needs in order to step into something to reclaim the meaning for this? It could be covering up the tattoo, right? But if you did that, you'd want to do it with like a very intentional, like safe, like, you know, kind of container experience as a form of protection and self-protection, you know?
Maybe I could cover up the tattoo with something that
We could put the word mountain underneath it.
What?
We could put the word mountain underneath it.
That's true. His name's Rocky.
Love.
But luckily it's in a different language. And then oysters underneath.
Yeah.
Right.
But what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So part of me is wondering if I don't cover it up with something that symbolizes that moment, having someone's name on me, does that stop me from another relationship?
Right. Well, this is actually the more important question,
Do they
which
speak
is
Russian?
Yeah, that helps. If they don't speak Russian, it helps.
right. So you're not dating Ilya Rozanov.
No,
Sorry.
unfortunately.
I'll
go for Scott.
Yeah. But what I'll say is that I think you're hitting kind of like the important point here, which is that the meaning making has to be an act that you kind of step into with purpose and intention. And you're right, like it can be preventing you from detaching, right? And this is why the concept of ritual I find to be so important, because when someone talks about wanting to get over someone or wanting to move on, right? Or they say things like time will heal, right? Mm-hmm. These are all true. Like these are all conceptually true things. Mm-hmm. The problem is we're engaging what you know.
There's no how.
Well, it's called a external locus of control model, where essentially like the universe will take care of things, and I don't have to be an active participant, right?
Yeah.
And to create ritual is to be an active participant, and it's
like shifting the focus to somebody else instead of taking the responsibility.
Yeah,
yourself.
it's not to say that like, especially because it has a spiritual like framing to it. It's not to say that like I run the show. It's not to say that like I'm in charge of everything. In fact, in some ways, you're kind of like, I'm still turning things over to God or a higher power or a spiritual self or something bigger than me.
It's like saying I want a six-pack, but then I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm going to turn it over to God.
Right, but yes, but also in the six-pack kind of metaphor, it's also kind of like why do you want it? Well, because then I'm going to get validation from people, right? Okay, so that's a fine want, but is that a want that merits ritual?
Right.
Not necessarily, right?
Okay.
I want to
speak for yourself.
Well, okay, fine. Touche. But all this is to say that, like, I think that, this the more conversations I've been having with people, the more interviews I've been doing for the book, the more I've been convicted of this notion that like ritual is kind of this missing piece that. And we have plenty of rituals within our culture, like spiritually or aspiritually, right? I think that like there are things that are associated as ritualistic things, whether that be like yoga or 12-step programs has a lot of like rituals kind of associated with it. I think people's spiritual practices, whether that be from like a Christian tradition or a Buddhist tradition or a Jewish tradition, these are all very ritual oriented things. I think the way we do holidays, are all very ritualistic. Yeah. Oftentimes there are rituals involved.
My seances are pretty ritualistic too.
Seances, I think people doing tarot. Yeah. I think the way people have sex, like all these are actually very ritualistic in nature. And so the more I've been talking to people, it's actually that I find that it's about interjecting a word that people might not have heard of or thought about, but then as soon as they start to think about how their life has rituals in it, then it's actually not that complicated of a concept.
Yeah, I mean, I think ritual. I mean, for those of you who might be listening, who's like, well, I don't really have rituals. It's like you can even think about them as being habits. Like, what are these habits that you do on a regular basis? And I mean, life in a lot of ways is habit based. Like everything that we do from the moment we go to sleep to the moment we wake up is a habit.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you want to think about it, it's like, well, we habitually go to bed. Like,
Unfortunately, I do have to push back because it's a good idea, but it's actually like the exact like kind of antithesis of what I'm writing about. Because actually, habit and routine are maybe the building blocks for ritual. But if you think about it, right, going back to kind of the example of every day you could look yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, like, oh, like this tattoo isn't about him, it's about me, like choosing life. You know, that's a habit. But that might not be sufficient, right? Sometimes habits aren't sufficient. And it's not because habits are bad, right? It's not, in fact, like there's tons of really good habits. The concept is that sometimes we need something bigger. We need something more exceptional. We need something more like to gets us outside of our life and our routine.
I hear you.
And that's where like the concept. But you are right in like associating
Please,
a link.
push away.
You're right in associating the link between them because I think from habits we can learn what rituals we can develop.
Right, of course.
Right.
I think that habits might not necessarily have as much like meaning behind them. You know, like we could be brushing our teeth every single day,
right?
And I have to think about like, well, why am I doing this tooth? You know, like it's not necessary to like. Think
that's to go back to intention. This is the tension point, right? Is that like habit is less intentional, but it has some amount of intention. Let's call it 60% of the level of intention, in some cases.
Yeah, but it's not necessary really to like actually. I mean, maybe for me, it's not necessary to like to think about it as much when I'm brushing my teeth.
Exactly.
Or when I'm like brushing my hair, you know?
Well, when I'm talking to people about their breakups, they're like, well, maybe I have been engaging in ritual, I've been going to the gym. I'm like, oh, like, well, how's that been for you? Well, I've been feeling good in my body, blah, 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 et cetera. And I'll kind of push back and I'll be like, okay, cool. So I think that's probably a really good habit, a really good routine for you. But let's talk about why that's different from a ritual, right?
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of people who go through a breakup, they go to the gym, they get kind of bodied, right? And it doesn't heal the wound, right? In the same way that like if someone is going through death grief, right, and maybe they are having issues with eating because their body is like physically sick from the grief, if they get in the habit of eating, that's great, but it's not going to heal the wound.
I have a question for you. Yeah. So let's say, like, does a ritual necessarily have to be something different that you may or may not have been, well, that you hadn't been doing? Let's say, for instance, like you go through a breakup.
Yeah.
You said that the gym isn't really a good ritual to like claim, and that is probably because of the fact that like for a lot of reasons. But in my thinking, I'm like, okay, does it necessarily then have to be something that you may not had been like that person could have been going to the gym before the breakup?
Yes.
So does it have to be something that you weren't doing during?
It's a great question. The answer is that it depends, right? So for example, you could have a fitness gym and like physical activity related ritual that you engage in, right? So I was talking to one woman in an interview and she was talking about her relationship with the gym and she was like, I kind of want to formulate a ritual around the gym. And I was like, okay, so I think that what you might want to do is pick a day that you're going to go to the gym, right? One day. And when you go, maybe beforehand, like in the parking lot outside the gym, maybe you write a letter to either your ex or to your broken-hearted self or something like that. And then you tuck it into your bra or in your whatever, and you go into the gym and you do a really, really, really hard workout, like with that letter like on your physical body, and then you come back outside and maybe you burn it or something like that, right? That's like taking something that's already habitual and like adding intention to it, not because that is like the right way to heal, but because you're taking something and elevating it, you're bringing it to a higher level. Okay. You know what I mean? And so the reason why I can't say like, oh, like a gym is a bad ritual, that's not the case. It's less about if the gym is a good ritual or not. It's more about allowing a ritual to be something exceptional that lives outside of like a singular moment.
Now I want everybody who's listening or watching to this podcast to do this on your next time going to the gym, and then
tuck a letter in your bra strap.
Yeah, and then burn it the moment that you leave the gym, regardless of where you are, whether or not you're in New York City, whether you're in just burn it.
Just walk outside the Equinox and set it on fire.
Maybe not even outside the Equinox, just like right there in the lobby. Just kidding. Please don't do that.
No, please don't do that. But also, this is why I'm finding it so exciting, but also challenging to be working on this project because I don't have the answers to what everyone's ritual should be. It's actually about having conversations with people and like for example, like with Richard and the tattoo thing, like that's not the only ritual, but like it's something that's like hurting for him, and so maybe formulating a ritual that has to do with the tattoo would be healing. You know what I mean?
When I first started this company and started doing like a lot of pop-up events, I actually I guess you could say this was a ritual, but like I made a ritual. I was selecting cities that I had previously lived in that I had kind of like
That is very ritualistic.
that I had destroyed my life in.
Oh, that's
and
sick.
so I
Okay.
went back to every single one of those cities and I did pop-up events in them to be able to reclaim those places and to be
Beautiful.
able to like create other memories or other thoughts associations with those cities that I had previously like lived in. So I did that with like Chicago, I did it with LA, I did it with Miami in a lot of ways. I did it with New York. I did it
Sick.
with like everywhere that I've been, everywhere that we went to over the course of like 2 years was very intentional in why I selected those places. And it was because I needed to spend time in those places to be able to recreate positive associations
Yes.
from negative ones.
See, that's actually
So-
a beautiful definition of ritual. And this is like when I'm doing these interviews with people, I often find stories like that where it's kind of like maybe they didn't use the word ritual at the time, but that is very ritual informed because you said to yourself, here's a pain point, here's
Yeah.
a place, and I have to do something intentional to step into it. And the ritual of like having the pop-up had some logistical steps. You have to like bring
Right.
the merch and set up the table and make your and like publicize it. Like all those things are things that like have intention. And if you're infusing it with this like true sense of like I want to reclaim this place, like that's a beautiful like. Was it healing for you?
Oh my God, it was incredible.
What was a moment that you kind of realized that this was incredibly healing for you?
There were a few different times that it was like pretty impactful.
Yeah.
I don't even like, yeah. So I think it was my time in Chicago was
Yeah.
actually probably the most impactful. I ran into somebody within the first like 24 hours of being there, who had really kind of like, I had run into somebody who had really kind of like helped propel me in the right direction, not for the best reasons possible. Basically, it was somebody who was living in my space. We had gotten very physical, and I had like a moment where I realized that like if I didn't do something about the way that my life was heading, I was gonna probably end up dying in that apartment.
Right.
I had a big gash on my forehead. It was not cute at all. It was from that experience and that moment that it was like that literal day that I like called my parents and told them what was up and took the power away from the person who was trying to blackmail me for the past like I don't even know how many months.
Wow.
And so within
Jesus.
the first like 24 hours of being in Chicago, I run into him. And not in any place. I ran into him like in a meeting. And it was crazy to even have that happen because I thought about it the whole entire time that I was driving to Chicago. I was like, oh my
Right.
God, what if I run into him?
Right.
What will I say? What will I do? How will I act? And I freaked out about it for such a long time that eventually I forgot about it. And I got to Chicago, went straight to a meeting. And the moment that I walked into the meeting, he wasn't there. And I was like, okay, awesome. Perfect.
Did you know that he was sober?
No.
Okay.
And then because he still had like he had like a passport ID card of mine. And so like every couple months, every like 6 months or so, I'd get like a bing from some local like police station in somewhere, and they would tell me that like they had that my like passport ID card had resurfaced in a recent arrest. And I'd be like, oh, okay, like I know who has it. Like and so because of that, like I'd never thought that I would actually run into him that way. I just thought maybe like on the street or whatever. And I with the meeting started, the first 5 minutes went by, door opened, and he walked, and I literally almost shit my pants.
Yeah.
And I probably had like skid marks after that. But it was just like it was crazy because then what ended up happening was like we said hello to one another, and I was going to be in Chicago for 2 weeks, and we were going to do the Chicago Marathon Expo. And when I was there, I asked a friend of mine who lives in Chicago, who I've known for many years. I was like, hey, like I need to hire some people for this weekend for this event. I need them to be sober. I need them to like be jobless. I need them to really need a job.
Yeah, need the work.
And he was
yeah.
like, hire X. And I was like, anybody
fuck.
else?
Yeah.
He's like, but that kid is like so motivated. He's so determined. He's like, he's doing everything right. Like,
Jesus.
he's like the first person that comes to mind if you were to ask me a question like that. You should hire X. And I was like, I don't know if I can. Like, there's just like a lot of it's a pain point for me to like even have to think about that.
Yeah.
And eventually, I ran into somebody else and I asked them, who they thought I should hire, and they said him as well.
Jesus
And I was like, okay,
Christ.
fuck. I'm like, I think this was actually meant to happen. So I messaged him and I said, hey, like I heard you're looking for a job. I would love to hire you for the weekend. You would start on Wednesday and you work with me till Sunday, and like it's pretty much every single day. It's a really intensive job. Like, are you up for it? I'll pay you this number of hours, like this much, whatever. And he couldn't believe it.
I mean, you couldn't believe it either.
Yeah,
know?
he couldn't believe that I was even like talking to him.
Yeah.
And then the fact that I ended up hiring him. He worked with me for the whole entire weekend. Him and like 2 other people. It ended up being a really, really, really positive experience. I talk to him now to this day.
Because he was the one that you went to go see when we were in Chicago, right?
Yep. Yeah.
See, but this is what I mean in terms of like ritual. Like once again, like you weren't actively calling this a ritual, but like this was a ritual.
Yeah.
In the sense that like you stepped into a healing container with intention. You couldn't do it. You actually could not have done that unintentionally. Like it would have been A, dangerous, and B, like it wouldn't have been healing. You know what I mean?
No, I mean it was I still can't even believe that it happened the way that it did. But yeah, it was intense. It was a really intense experience.
And you guys had been romantically involved at one point too?
I mean, come on, not really. Like,
Yeah.
it was like one of those drug-fueled relationships that never really was anything to begin with.
Right.
It was just more like
Just toxic.
it was just more of like a convenience thing. Like
Right.
he was in the right place at the right time at the right moment. And as a result, I was in the right place at the right time at the right moment for him. And I mean, for better or for worse, like if you're watching this, sorry for talking about it, but you know who you are. And we're friends now. So like, I think that we just kind of like latched onto this for companionship, even though there was never any sort of like romantical link involved.
Right.
I don't even think we slept together.
Yeah.
And so like from the moment that like we were like connected, it was just a tumultuous thing from the very get-go.
Right.
I really explored new depths to the drugs that I was using.
Well, if you think about it, like in some ways, like in a dark-sided way, like there's also like almost like dark rituals that we end up kind of like over attaching, unhelpfully attaching.
Right.
Like, I think especially when drugs are involved, sex is involved. You know,
You go through every single emotional state within like a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
You go through like the likes, the butterflies, then like you're like romantically involved, and you're basically married by like hour 18. You're like having your first fights, and then by hour 24 you're getting divorced.
Right. Exactly. In some ways, I would call it kind of like a perverted ritual. You know what I mean? It's like it almost feels like a ritual, but it's not really one because it's not safe, and it's not connecting you to something like bigger or higher than yourself, or like a more elevated version of yourself. You know, and so it's it's an interesting. But I think that's a really, really cool and beautiful example. I really appreciate you sharing that, because this is why I'm writing this book, because I think that actually a lot of people, you know, and I've been doing these interviews now for a couple of months, and like a lot of people have stories, you know, like this, you know, name specifically about their breakups. And I think there's a lot we can learn from each other, not by trying to mimic the exact ritual, right? It's not like, oh, go hire, you know, your ex-abusive, you know, somewhat person in your life and like heal that way. But we can learn through this thematically, through like the concept of like intention and the concept of what I like to call creating a container, you know? And creating a container means something that you can step into with that intention, with that purposefulness, but it also has a beginning, middle, and end. You know what I mean? Like you know, and that's why like the example that you gave really like resonates as a ritual, because there was a start date, there was a start date, and there was an end date. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got to Chicago on a certain date. That expo started on a certain day. That expo ended on a certain date, and I left Chicago on a certain date.
Yeah, and throughout that whole experience, you made choices, intentional choices that allowed you to heal with the intention to heal, you know? Like, especially with something like 12-step informing your choices, 12-step is very ritualistic. But once again, this is the difference between routine and ritual. Every time someone goes into an AA meeting, they're not necessarily engaging in a ritual. Sometimes they're just like following their habit or their routine, right? But sometimes, right, you step into something, you're going through something really painful, or you're going through the 12 steps or something like that, and all of a sudden like you're stepping into something that's much bigger than just this one-off meeting.
So one thing that we love to do on this show is an ungrateful confession.
An ungrateful confession.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is a moment where you tell me something that has been driving you crazy, you confess it to me, and we will forever memorialize it. We will put everything that you say in a plaque and put it up on the wall. Just kidding. But basically what we like to do is we like to just kind of like highlight or memorialize.
Memorialize.
No, that's not even what I'm looking for.
Right.
We just want to show, we would want to like make sure that like we always remain human in these types of scenarios and situations, just to show that like, hey, we're human too. We all have those moments in
Yeah.
time where like we might feel a little ungrateful, and we have to confess that we feel ungrateful at any given point in time.
Yeah.
I mean, just because we work at a place called State of Gratitude, that I own a company called State of Gratitude, that I'm supposed to be like this like guru-y person
Oh,
that
yeah.
walks around and is just like, bless thee of thy grateful moment.
Right. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I keep like
You're
shooting
good.
beads at you. It's so rude. I'm doing
You're
okay
good.
for a first timer,
Yes.
but
You're
Yeah.
doing great for a first
I mean,
timer.
you've got a lot on that thread. So let's hear it. Give me
okay.
your ungrateful. What is one?
okay. Let me think for a second, because okay.
You're like, I'm not in that mindset. We'll get in it.
No, I wasn't, but like now, yeah. Okay, I'm working on this trait, but I'm a very like,
Oh, and you're working on what?
I'm working on this trait, I said.
Okay, yes.
But I just struggle with like a sense of urgency all the time. And I think that it manifests as like me like not really giving myself room to like pause or room to breathe. And so I think the thing that I'm like ungrateful for is like my trait of being on the go and being so in a state of urgency all the time. I understand why I have this trait. I think it's like what's made me kind of like, push myself. But I also have been lately really resenting it, because my therapist and I have been working on like how maybe this trait is, it's born of old wounds, but is also keeping me from like actually being able to like savor things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not particularly grateful for that today, slash often.
So
Does that maybe answer the question?
perfect.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mine is hackers. I hate hackers, because what happened over the past week is, if you've gotten a weird message from me on Facebook or Instagram, it was not me. I don't know if that's actually been happening, but we got hacked on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And
Really?
my Instagram account was like,
Like state of gratitude.
no, my
Your
personal,
personal?
Okay.
my
But it's-
personal Instagram account was taken over. It was hacked, and it
That's
was
so
just
stressful.
so annoying because I couldn't access anything, and then it kept getting booted out, and it was just like this nightmare. And like whoever hacked into this account, fuck you. But also they turned on all these ads that were like linked to my personal Instagram account and Facebook. So I was starting to get notifications that like I had run like $200, $300, $400 worth of ads.
Oh my God.
And they were the reason why I knew. I don't really go on Facebook or Instagram that often. I'm hardly ever on there, and I started getting pinged that my card was getting declined
Oh my
from
God.
PayPal, and I was like,
PayPal.
PayPal is not set up with Meta anymore. That's so weird. Everything goes straight through Shopify Balance, and I'm like, I should go in and check this out and see what's up.
Yeah.
And when I went to log in, wrong password, and I'm like,
Shit.
huh, how could this be a wrong password? I don't even know. Like, I'm like, A, I don't even know what the right password is. Like, but B, I'm like, I don't even go in here. Like, how could it not be the right password? And I kept
Right.
trying and trying. Couldn't get in. Realized that, like, all my accounts had been taken over. My Facebook and my Instagram had been taken
Jeez.
offline. Like, and that this person had turned on every single ad that was, like, in my...
Which is
like,
crazy.
ad manager. And so it was, like, running hundreds of thousands of impressions, like, every single day for a week, and I didn't even notice until finally the credit card declined.
Oh my
That's
God.
insane.
And it was really frustrating and really annoying, and still dealing with it to this day, because Meta, you need better support system. I'm pretty sure the last person that I spoke to was probably like taken by somebody, because it sounded like they were in the bunker of a basement. And like it was the weird, I'm like, I don't even know how you guys could legitimately call this support. if it sounds like the person who is answering the phone is in the basement of God knows where, in the middle of like God knows what part of Europe, allegedly, and you just hear some man in the background like screaming at somebody. I'm like, this is so bizarre, and she's like whispering on the phone, and I'm like, do you need help? Like, blink once if you need help. Like, tell me in another language if you need somebody, if you need me to send somebody, because I don't know where you are. Like, man screaming in the background, she's whispering on the phone. Like, it was so weird. But
that's a lot to be ungrateful for. I have to say.
It's one thing, but it's just like it's a big thing.
It's a big thing.
It's a big thing. But hopefully that all can get sorted out soon, because I'm tired of wasting time and energy on something that doesn't really do much for me in the first place.
Right.
I just need access to it because, like, heaven forbid they get into like state of gratitude or something.
I know.
Right.
And that would be an even bigger issue. So I need to make sure that like
problem.
my stuff is like locked up or locked down or just doesn't exist at all.
Update your passwords, darlings.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Be on the lookout. They're real. They happen. You don't. I always used to hear people talk about this happening to them, and I'm like, oh, like, you think you're important. And now I realize it's just like, it's not even that you think you're important. It's like, it's just really annoying.
Yeah.
It's really annoying, and especially for somebody who doesn't go on there that often.
Yeah.
To like just start getting pinged that I'm spending hundreds of dollars somewhere, and I'm just like, I can't really. Yeah, it's like a very complex situation to be in, and it sucks. So if you're a hacker, coming for you. If you're not, thank you so much for listening. And that's what I got. What about you, Richard? Do you have anything you're ungrateful for today?
Yeah, well, on Saturday,
Mm.
I'm supposed to go have dinner and meet up with a friend
Uh-oh.
who's in town. And I was 45 minutes late because of the train.
Mm.
The C on weekends decides to run,
Local?
well, it's always local, but it decides to run at odd times and then decides to stop in the middle where I don't have service and I can't update, so I look like I'm Dorit.
Ah, Dorit Kemsley. Well, you're not even talking like her, though. How do
I
you
know.
think you're Dorit?
But I'm late. I have an 8 o'clock reservation. I'm walking in at 8:45.
Did they wait for you?
Well, no. Well, I told them not to. But it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
When I kept telling myself, at the next stop, I'll just take a car. But we get to the next stop, and it's like, oh, okay, we go to a couple stops, and
It's
it...
seemingly fine, and then
oh,
next thing
yeah.
you know-
And then it gets stopped again. It's like, oh, no, I'm just on here. And normally it's a 10-minute train ride.
Where were you going?
I went to dinner at Wild.
Oh, wild. Crazy.
But yeah, that's the train on the weekends.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, the train on the weekends.
It's annoying.
And it's not as easy just to like hop off and just like get a
No.
car either, because now it's like,
Then you're stuck in traffic on the... Yeah, you're doing really well.
Yeah, you're
you're
doing
stuck
well.
in traffic.
a lot of black beads on the table. You're doing really well.
But what about you, Tiara?
I would have to say maybe the weather. It's like very up and down. One day you're wearing shorts, and then the next day I have my winter coat on.
Or in the
Right.
same day you're wearing shorts and then it's cold.
Like Saturday, it started off so beautiful, and then it was cold and rainy.
Well, girl, you would not like living in LA.
No, I wouldn't.
LA is like one of those places that like you start off the day one way, and like by the evening you're like, I don't know. I felt like every time when I would spend a lot of time out there, I would basically have a whole closet in my trunk. So it'd be like, okay, I might start off the day with a t-shirt on, but then I'll end it with like a parka.
Yeah.
I was living in Miami, so you know it was those temperature changes for me were quite extreme
Yeah.
at the time. New Yorkers are probably like, wait, what? You would end up with a parka? Was it like 65 degrees outside? I'm like, yes, 65 is winter coats, like earmuffs, gloves.
Yeah, when
everything.
you're from Miami.
Yeah.
So,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
the weather's been definitely up and down.
so usually when people get married, they tend to write books on, finding love and, relationships. What made you decide to go this route?
Well, yeah, like I said, I told the story about my dad, and I think
Yeah.
that was like really that was
So that was
very,
it?
that was very that was definitely the inspiration. I mean, and he knows this. We had like a really like nice talk about it, honestly. But then what happened was I started reading other books about breakups, about grief, about attachment, and I kind of I just felt that this. Oh my God! I'm just spraying the beads all over the place. I just found that this concept of like ritual, or something to kind of to heal better was kind of a gap, and I also found that there was a lot of language that was really redundant. Right? This like time will heal. You just got to get over it. Just got to wait it out.
Very self-help
Yeah.
language.
Just give it about.
And I don't actually think
you'll forget about
there's
it.
like something intrinsically wrong with that. I also topics like things like no contact kept coming up, and I was very curious. I was like, how does this all work? Like, how is this all helping people heal? And why are some people healing and some people not healing? And you hear people who like, oh, like I went through this breakup and I couldn't date again for 10 years, and you're like what happened there? Like why? And obviously there's tons of individual cases and individual reasons, but I think that I really just then started to think about how people process death grief, because in the body, the nervous system really grieves attachment grief this similar way to death grief, right? Because it's reaching for something that's no longer there. And you might say like, oh, well, in death grief, it gets maybe easier because that person's gone forever, and that's true. But in some breakups, the person is truly gone forever, right? And in some breakups, maybe it's a little more complex.
I never see my exes.
And there's nothing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with no contact, for example. But I think that it's oftentimes it strikes me that people want to just excommunicate, remove someone from their life. And my question is like, so what did you do for yourself? And I kind of started with some big questions, like, okay, like maybe like is people go to therapy, like that's the helpful thing, whatever. But then I started to, as a therapist, I'm a big believer that therapy isn't the solution to everything, which maybe,
Would you say that no contact then is necessarily like an easy path out?
I would say that no contact is probably necessary when people need to detach the nervous system, but it takes the nervous system like a few months to experience that detachment. So I don't think permanent no contact is necessary, but also after the detachment occurs, then like, what's the point of the attachment? Like maybe you need it, maybe you don't need it. I don't really have a black and white view on no contact where it needs to be like this like forever thing.
Right.
But more important than whether or not someone's engaging in no contact or not, but especially if someone's trying to and they're struggling with it, that's where the ritual comes in. Like, what are you replacing it with, right? And honestly, routine and can be a helpful tool as well. Like, what kind of routines are you adding to your life? But I've talked to people who have really, really robust routines in their life as they're going through a breakup, and they still just kind of can't seem to heal. And that's where kind of like this reflection of ritual becomes, from my perspective, pretty important.
Now, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I just, I think of it as like saying, okay, I'm just never going to talk to them ever again. And it's like, well, that almost feels like the easy way out. Because then you're like, it's really easy to avoid somebody, but then you're not really focusing on like solving any of the issues of the relationship or why you ended up in this position in the first place.
Right.
Like maybe, self-help is also an important factor in, getting over somebody or going through a breakup. It's not necessarily just like, I'm just never going to talk to them because that's what somebody told me to do and that's the easiest way to get over somebody. It's like, well,
Right.
girl, like, why are you going through so many breakups?
That's an interesting question. I think that whether it's ritual, or whether it's maybe something that's a little bit more routine, like I think that introspection is obviously very important. And I think that like when you're in the process of, or when you're avoiding healing, I think that it's very difficult to take accountability, right? Because the pain just like kind of outshines the necessity for self-accountability. But then, other times when you're engaging with holding yourself accountable, maybe, you know,
Yeah.
the circumstances will be different. So
I
it
mean,
just depends. Yeah.
I'm perfect, so I don't
Right.
really know
Right.
what that's like to hold yourself accountable, because if you don't ever make mistakes, like, I don't know.
No, I was
Yeah.
just
But you know, I think that there's something that other people could probably learn from this. You know.
Yeah.
no, I was just
course.
thinking because I was in a serious relationship for almost a little over 8 years.
Yeah.
Right before I got sober, and then I got sober, and I think the healing from that relationship was probably the easiest because I was also getting sober at the time. So I was working on healing. I realized what I did because drug use and
Right.
being physically abusive to somebody is, you know, you take accountability for that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to move on.
Right.
And
Well, what's interesting is that, like, you know, yeah, you had containers through recovery to hold yourself accountable, to heal, right? And that's why, like, as I'm doing these interviews, like, people who are in 12-step or people who have religious practices, and I mean like real religious practices, not like, you know, vague spiritual practices, like that. Those are actually really great things,
Yeah.
right? I think that one of the reasons why we struggle with how to get over a breakup is because, you know, we've moved into like for a lot of good reasons, we've moved into like a pretty like agnostic, like non-religious, non-spiritually centric society, which is great in many ways. But I do think that like it's our responsibility to kind of create new rituals for healing if we're not using outdated rituals that worked for people in the past,
Yeah.
right?
Like those rituals that existed back then may have, you know, been forced upon people to practice them regardless of whether or not they actually wanted to.
Right.
Whereas like now it's like you have the ability to create your own rituals and do how you want them, like do them how you want them to be.
Exactly.
But actually take the opportunity to do them, because if you're
Right.
just not going to do them at all, maybe you should go back to the way things were back then.
Go back to what?
The way that things were back then.
Oh yeah, maybe. But yeah, I think you know, it's, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head, which is that like ritual has a subjective component, which is like you kind of create your own thing, but also there's like taking broad inspiration from other people who are doing
Yeah. Other things.
other things. Exactly. Yeah.
No, when I got sober, my therapist told me I needed to create new rituals
Oh,
because
interesting.
she was saying the practice of calling the dealer, getting everything set up, you know, getting your paraphernalia
Yeah,
in
yeah.
order is a practice. It's a
Yeah.
ritual.
It is a ritual. Yeah.
So she recommended, you know, what she recommended either tea, getting loose leaf tea, doing something like that,
Yeah.
Getting what?
or coffee, doing
Yeah.
French press
French
or
press
something
or
like
espresso
that.
machine,
So you
yeah.
have to wait for the coffee to,
Right.
the water to boil.
Yeah.
Then, you know, pick out the different whichever coffee you want.
Right.
And then put it into the French press. So it's a whole
It,
process.
it comes back to intention, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I think that kind of replacement, and that's kind of like this bridge between like, you know, these big concepts of rituals and like that's not just routine. It does become routine, but I think initiating it is a ritual. You know,
Yeah.
starting a process like that is a ritual because you have to like really reflect on what is it that I'm going to be able to like sustain, right?
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
How like when you were like using, you had all the time in the world to like do all these rituals and things, but now as a sober person, it's like having to wait for coffee feels like an eternity.
You know.
You're like, oh my god,
I actually was thinking about that because I stopped doing that. I have the French press in my apartment.
takes so much time.
I have the but I'll go buy cold brew around the corner.
Right.
I mean, I take Teddy on a walk every morning, and we stop at the Starbucks in the corner. I never understood people's infatuation with going to Starbucks every day. I was like, why do they do that? Like, I don't get it. Like, da 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 da. But now Teddy and I go to Starbucks almost every single morning and get a cup of coffee and a little cinnamon coffee cake,
Oh.
Cute.
and and a pup cup, and like it's turned into like this every morning thing, and I'm like, oh my god, I became that person that used to make fun of all the time.
Right.
And it's just, yeah, it's crazy how like when we do things with intention or with ritual, you know, they might end up becoming the one person that you never thought you were going to become in the first place.
Maybe a way of conceptualizing it is that the difference between ritual and routine is that routine is about creating predictability so that you could have more psychological safety, and ritual is actually about creating psychological safety so that you can step out of your routine.
I mean, if you want me to like run away from something, call it a routine. Like, I do not like them at all. Like the moment that something becomes like a routine for me, I tend to like turn around and I just like drop some napalm and like blow it up.
Right.
Well, do you think that some rituals do become routine? Or
100%. I mean, someone's first AA meeting is absolutely a ritual, right? You have to step into it with intent, or most of the time it's a ritual, right? Like you have to step into it with intention. It's a, oh my God, I'm almost done. It's a really,
That's what you think.
it's a really big deal. It's like it's a big moment, and then by continuing to go to AA meetings, like eventually it becomes part of your routine, right? Which doesn't take away from its meaningfulness as a practice, but it might take away from its meaningfulness meeting to meeting. So not every single time is going to be like this like white
moment.
lifetime of experience, or white light experience.
In the same
So
way that you
yes.
spoke about like the other way around, like where routines can also become rituals.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Correct. Both can be
ways
true.
can, yeah, both
Exactly.
ways can exist.
Yeah.
do you think that when it becomes routine, or your ritual becomes routine, does it take away from the original effect?
No, I just think that when we are trapped in heartbreak specifically, we have to have interruptions.
Okay.
You need stability to stabilize yourself after a relationship, but then you also need interruption to break yourself out of the unhelpful routines, especially cognitive routines that you get trapped in. That's kind of how I think about that.
Okay, that makes sense. So, another quick question. So, with that, like if you have a ritual for one breakup,
Yeah.
it becomes a healthy routine that you've added to your life.
Yeah.
Do you need to adjust it if you have another breakup, or can you?
I think it depends. I think, for example, like I
Copy
interviewed
paste.
this one woman who went through this really intense divorce, and she started having these family dinners to give some like stability for her kids, and then eventually it kind of became this really healing ritual for her with her ex-husband, and she talked about using that ritual to heal through a subsequent breakup with another person. And so I think that it depends on how it kind of
So the intention that you
the intention and like how exceptional it is versus how routinized it is. Like if it's something that's happening like every all the time, like it might not hold the same weight. But I think that if it's something that is, I was talking to this other woman who did tarot to get through an abusive relationship, and I was asking her toward the end of the interview, like, oh, do you do tarot all the time? She's like, no, like I can't, because it has to stay this like sacred thing. And so when I need it, whether it's for a breakup or like a big moment in life, whatever, like I can like step into it and like access it, but I can't treat it as something that's like always available to me, because otherwise I'll like take away kind of like the power of that.
That's what happened to me with yoga. Like,
Right, yoga's
I used-
another good example.
I used
yeah.
to do yoga all the time, and then I did a yoga teacher training, and now I'm just like, fuck yoga.
Right, exactly. So sometimes
Not always. I do like yoga. I do yoga every once in a while, and like
It just
like,
doesn't have the same meaning.
I had to step away from it for a while
Right.
in order to have it like reclaim the purpose of what
Exactly.
it meant to me beforehand.
Exactly.
Once you get so involved in it, and you go to Costa Rica for like 2 weeks, and you're eating the same thing every day, and the sun sets at 5 o'clock, and then like they charge you like $45 for a thing of blueberries, like you end up like starting to resent it, and you're like,
Right.
why am I doing this in the first place?
Right. Oh my God, I think I slayed, honestly.
Oh yeah, you did good.
I think we really covered
we
like
covered a lot of
yeah,
topics
I really love, especially loved your story about about Chicago. I think that was like a really beautiful example of ritual, and exactly why I'm talking to people to understand like what their relationship with ritual is, because it's so variable.
I mean, it's so
Yeah.
intention is like so much intertwined in my
It's
whole
the word of the
entire
day.
life.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally making an intention route.
Right.
And I think that oftentimes we forget that the things that we do need intention, which is
Yep.
which is why I jokingly say that I run away from routine.
Right.
Because I don't ever want to feel like I'm just living a life filled with like habits or
Right.
routines. I want to live a life that is filled with intention, and
Right.
where everything I do feels intentional. Not intention in the way where I'm like, okay, like this step I'm going to take is going to be the one that brings me one step closer to my breakfast. Like,
Right,
no,
right,
but
right.
at the same time, it's like realizing that like every day is a beautiful gift, and
Yeah.
and always wanting to take advantage of every moment. for whatever that may look like. Yesterday, it looked like taking advantage of the fact that it was a dreary day and I got to stay inside for most of it.
Yeah.
You know, but like at the same time, it's like doing it with the mindfulness of it.
100%.
And I love that you live that life as well, and that you can understand and appreciate it on another level. And I think that a lot of the people who will be watching this will also be of a very similar
Yeah.
mind, or maybe they won't be. Maybe they'll be more interested in other things. We'll find out soon enough, won't we? So yeah, where can we find you? What
Yes.
socials?
Yes. So my Instagram is Benjamin J. Goldman. My Instagram account devoted to my work around breakups is Ben the Breakup Therapist. So if you have a story you want to share, or you're interested in learning more or following the process around that, find me there.
So I always tell people that when we put these on, there's two different ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing is, do you want the state of gratitude to be pointing towards you or away from you? Do you want to remind yourself, or do you want to show it to others?
You can put it away from me.
Away from you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm finishing off the bracelet by tying it together and then affixing our little gold bead that covers our knot. A lot of people don't even realize that this gold bead covers the knot, but it actually is intentional. It's not just there for beauty, because as we spoke about earlier, everything is intentional, everything we do with purpose. And so the purpose of this bead is not only to look cute, but it is also to cover or hide a knot.
The knot.
This color is one of my favorites. He did the semi-matte black. On the website, it's just black bracelet wrap. But if you look at the beads like really closely, you can tell that they're just like,
Yeah.
they're not shiny, but they have like a finish to them. It's like really cool.
Yeah, I love them.
So then this is how we're gonna put it on. So let me see your wrist. Which one?
Okay, we'll do this one.
Because you said you wanted the state of gratitude away from you.
Yeah.
And you can set an intention as I put it on you.
Okay.
And we'll do one more loop. It stretches, so it's sure to get like that perfect size every single time. You can slide your finger underneath all of them, and then you can just like even it out.
Yeah.
Now every time you look at it, you'll always be reminded of what it means to you.
Amazing.
And the nice thing about the wraps is that you can shower with them. You never have to take it off. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, this was great. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey.